In this screencast, we're going to add another vitally important key concept to your sociological toolkit, and that's this concept, the concept of identity. And in this short screencast, we're going to look at two key issues. We're obviously going to start by defining what we mean by identity, and then in the second part of the screencast, we're going to look at some of the main social influences on identity formation. Okay, so let's start with the definition. So when we use the term identity in sociology, we're talking about the notions that we hold about ourselves. In other words, the way in which we see ourselves, the type of person that we think we are, and also the way in which we're perceived by other people in society, the way in which we're perceived by other social actors. And our identity is made up of two component parts. Firstly, you've got your personal identity, and this refers to aspects of ourselves which make us individual, which make us distinct and unique. And this might include things like aspects of our appearance, our personality, our own unique personal biography and experiences. And then on the other hand, you've also got our social identity. Okay, this is the other component part of an identity. And social identities are aspects of ourselves which we share in common with the groups to which we belong. So social identities are based on our membership or our identification with particular social groups. One important aspect of our social identity is our gender. And remember, for sociologists, your sex refers to biological differences between males and females. Okay, things that can't be changed. Gender, on the other hand, refers to the social differences between males and females, or what is seen to be masculine or feminine in a particular society. And sociologists would argue that these gender identities are learned and vary quite a bit from culture to culture. And in the screencast on socialization, we talked about how gender roles are acquired through a process of primary and secondary socialization. Another important aspect of our social identity is our nationality and also our ethnic identity. So the country where we were born gives us our nationality. So most people born in Britain can have a British passport and are legally classified as British citizens, and this is essentially a legal category, and it might also depend on your parents' nationality. Ethnicity, on the other hand, is a sense of belonging to a particular group or place. So there might be many people who are legally British, for example, but actually feel themselves to be Welsh, Scottish, or English rather than British. So ethnic identities are not necessarily legal identities. And usually, but not always, the term ethnicity is often associated in sociology with minority groups. So in the 1950s and the 1960s, many thousands of people migrated from the new Commonwealth countries, such as Jamaica, India, Pakistan, etc., to Britain, and they brought with them the traditional customs, values, religions, diets and languages of their homelands. So these cultural features set them apart from one another and also from the mainstream cultures of Britain. In other words, they formed distinctive ethnic groups, groups with their own cultures based on a shared sense of origin. Another really important aspect of our social identity studied by sociologists is social class. And social class can be narrowly defined as a group of people who share the same economic status within society. So it's a group of people who share roughly the same standard of living. However, many sociologists would argue that we shouldn't simply see social class as a matter of our economic status, as simply being a matter of the job that we do, our income and our wealth, that class is actually a much wider idea than money and possessions. And when we think of social class, we should also think of the social and cultural features of social classes that relate to our identity. So we should see social class as having its own special identity, its own set of values, its own lifestyles and habits. Age is another aspect of social identity studied by sociologists. And sociologists would argue that we shouldn't simply see age as a biological concept. Age is also socially constructed, so it's shaped by our culture and our society. People experience the aging process in different ways depending on the cultural context. And later on in the course we'll be looking at youth culture in a lot more detail. And there are some sociologists who argue that the formation of youth cultures, so the shared taste, activities, lifestyles of young people, are important, are functional, because they help to ease the passage towards stable adult identities and personalities. So the argument here is the existence of youth cultures offers young people the collective support of a peer group whilst they try to find themselves. And in the course of trying out different experiences, different lifestyles, different types of identities, they gradually mature and grow up. Some sociologists have argued that some of the traditional social identities studied by sociologists, such as social class, have become less important to individuals in contemporary society. And they argue that lifestyles and identities based on consumption have become more salient to individuals in contemporary society. So the argument that these sociologists would make is that identities may no longer be as strongly based on how people earn their money, in other words, a matter of occupation and social class, but much more on how they spend it, a matter of their consumer lifestyle. And consumer goods are important not so much for themselves as for what they say about the taste and style of the consumers. So people, when they're buying things, are usually aware that they're making a statement about themselves through their consumption habits. In her famous book, No Logo, the Canadian writer Naomi Klein argues that the meaning of brands has changed. So whereas once branding was about the quality of a particular product, branding is now all about you, the consumer, not about the brand being of good quality, but of you, the consumer, being of good quality because you buy that particular brand. So brands are now sold as a lifestyle, as an identity, as a culture. So far for component 1 of your A-level sociology course, we've explored the question, what is sociology, with particular reference to the work of C. Wright Mills and the sociological imagination, and then we spent quite a bit of time looking at key concepts, trying to build up a toolkit of core sociological ideas that we'd be applying to other topics throughout the course. The next part of component 1 is going to move on to an analysis of the main theories that are important in sociology.